We have reserved 1 hour to go through some details and practicalities concerning our grants for artists. My name is Henri Terho, and I'm working as the head of art support in Arts Promotion Center Finland. And as you can see from the start slide, we use the abbreviation Taike also in English, so the organization doesn't have a kind of proper English abbreviation. I'm going to here go through details concerning the current open call, which is for project grants for artists, and also I'm going to tell some details concerning other forms of support that we have for individual artists. And you can use the chat forum in the Teams for any comments and questions that might arise. And my plan is to go through my materials, and that will take some 30 minutes or so. And after that, we would have time for comments, questions, and discussion concerning our grants. But let's start. And as you can see, the event will be recorded. There is a flag saying that the recording has been started. And this is done for internal purposes only. So we are not going to distribute this recording anywhere, but this is for our own internal purpose. But let's continue. First of all, some details concerning Arts Promotion Center Finland, what the organization is about. We are an expert agency working under the Ministry of Education and Culture, and the tasks of the organizations are based on the law. And the current law was established almost exactly 10 years ago. We have primarily 2 tasks. One is to promote art and the working conditions and earning opportunities of professionals, and the other one is to promote culture insofar as it's not responsibility of any other authority. And this rather strange wording means that we, for example, are not dealing with, let's say, museums or libraries or those kinds of institutions that have separate legislation behind the activities. Year 2023 has been the last year that we have done proper statistics at this point. And that year, we awarded altogether a little less than 50 million euros in forms of grants, subsidies, and prizes. And just about half of the amount of money was used for individual artists, roughly 25 million euros. As you all probably are aware of, we are at the moment in a phase nationally where funding resources for arts are gradually diminishing, and at this point we have the preliminary information that for next year's state budget our resources would be together around 45.2 million euros, which means that there will be roughly 5 million euros cut in our resources. But that is still a preliminary information, because that is something that will be verified in the Parliament of Finland in December. All the decisions concerning artists are made in arts councils. And we have a system of arts councils that you can see in this chart. So we have both national arts councils that are working within groups of art forms, and then we have regional arts councils that is basically based on the division of counties that we have in Finland. And you can see the names and the regions of arts councils that we have currently in our system. The arts councils are being appointed by National Central Arts Council, and for the decision we are hearing the bodies of importance in Finland in terms of arts and culture, and based on the suggestions the groupings of the councils are being formed. In addition, we have 3 separate boards that you can see on the left down-hand corner. And those are separate boards because of the separate legislation that is concerning those specific issues. And I'm shortly introducing those a bit later on. But An important feature of the organization is that we have several different councils where issues concerning artists are being dealt with. This group altogether consists of roughly 180 individuals working in the councils. Members of the arts councils are being nominated according to suggestions that we receive from actors that work in the field of arts. Our Central Arts Council is the decisive body in defining the memberships of the councils, and the term is at the moment 2 years in one round. One can be in a council for 2 consecutive terms, but not longer periods, which means that there will be an automatic system of changes when it comes to decision makers within the councils. All the members are professionals that work in different fields of arts, and the Arts Council members are working as peer reviewers when it comes to evaluating and assessing and making decisions concerning artists' applications. And the boards, the ones in the yellow boxes that you remember from the previous slide, are, as said, nominated by Ministry of Education and Culture. So there's a slightly different structure in the way that those are being formed. Here is a list of grants that we offer annually for individual artists. And this particular info is concentrating on matters concerning individual artists, not, for example, concerning institutions that can also be applying for funding from us. The one call that is still open for this year is the call for project grants for specific art forms. And it was started in 1st of November, and that will be ending in 28th of November. And I have the precise dates and time slots in later coming slides. You can also be prepared for what is going to happen in springtime. In January, we are going to have open calls for so-called library grants and so-called public display grants. And those have specific purpose in terms of art forms. The first one being for writers and translators, both in fiction and non-fiction literature, and the latter one for being visual artists in various art forms within the entity of visual arts. Then, in addition, during February and March, we have open calls for regional grants and for artist grants. Regional grants are intended for activities that can already start within the year 2025, and artists' grants that can be applied for in spring 2025 are concerning periods starting from the beginning of year 2026. So there's always a bit slower process when it comes to dealing with artist grants. But please follow our websites for more closer information concerning the coming calls that are open in springtime. But this is for preliminary information for you to follow our information. So, project grants for specific art forms. I start with the sentence in bold. So application period will be ending on 28th of November at precisely 4 p.m. The electronical platform that we are using for applying is going to be closed on that precise moment. And you can also use paper forms when making applications, but make sure that the form is within our agency before that deadline. All the applications that don't meet the deadline will be excluded from the decision. Project grants are intended for professional artists and working groups. And the working groups need to be formed by professional artists in a way that at least one of the group members has to be a professional artist. Also, private traders are eligible in applying for project grants in this call. We have a definition. What do we mean when we are defining that these are intended for professional artists? And you can see the definition here in this sentence. So an important factor is that we don't necessarily require any formal education to become a professional artist. One can also be considered as a professional artist because of his or her career and the uh, excerpts of the work that he or she has done when they qualify our boards and the decision makers. And eventually that will be the Arts Council that will decide whether one is considered professional or not. And there are varieties within art forms in a way that professionalism is defined in the context of arts. For applying online in our online service, you need to have either personal e-banking identifiers or personal electronic ID cards to be able to log into the system. And always be careful to read the instructions in the call for applications carefully, because there are definitions how you should apply, for what kind of expenses can you apply for, what kind of sums of money can you apply, etc. The minimum sum, for example, is of importance. So 2,500 euros is the minimum sum of money that one can apply for in project grants. And please make sure that you are not applying for any smaller sum, because that will be excluded in the handling of the applications. Mandatory attachment for application is the CV of the applicant or the CVs of applicants if that is considering a working group. And I have my short coffee break. And let's continue. The project grants that are now currently under call can be used in 2-year period, starting from the beginning of year 2025 and ending until the end of the year 2026. And those will be intended for implementing specific projects. And the grant may cover any expenses that are project related. Let's say you can have acquisitions, you can fund travels, you can purchase equipments, you can buy services, you can make some commercial materials or whatever, as far as that is related to the project. And as far that is your personal cost. So you should never mix a personal cost with, for example, the costs of your company or anything like that. So this is for personal use. You can also cover project-related work. And since we have other forms of grants that are intended for working especially, meaning, for example, artist grants, we have made a limit for the amount of working that a project grant can cover. And the maximum will be and is for 3 months duration. And as in euros, that is equaling in our current system the amount that you can see on the screen, 6,750 euros in all. That is equaling a 3 months grants amount. If you are applying as a contact person of a working group, please make sure that you can only use the grant for the members that are appointed for the working group. So you cannot use that for anybody that you get to join later on in the working group if you don't agree upon that with us later on. And again, make sure that you are using your grant in your personal accounts and in your personal expenses that cannot be transferred to, for example, any accounts of any community or things like that. And that has a taxational purpose, because that will be considered within your taxation due to the decision that we are making. Though all these funds are tax-free funding, so you don't have to worry about any tax payments due to these grants. Some further issues. Since last year, we have been forced to make limitations as for the number of applications that one can send us. And that is due to the ever-exceeding number of applications in all that we receive at the moment in Taike. And this is made to ensure that the handling of the applications is going to be reasonably fast in order to make it possible for you to realize your projects. So you can send us only one application for this round of project grants. If you are working on different fields of art, you have to choose which is the one that you are sending us the application for. If you are also working as a working group, you have to choose whether your application is for your own personal project or for the working group's project, in case you are the contact person of the working group. And the last point, I might that comment separately. So you can, however, be a member of a working group, even though you have your own personal application for this call. So that doesn't exclude being a member of a working group. Here is a screenshot of our website where you can see the place where you can log in for the system. And you can see on top right-hand corner a button saying online services. And there you should choose the one above the selection that you can see. So there's a button saying log in to Taike's online services interface in Finnish. That is the one that you should use when applying for a project grant. And here comes the slightly embarrassing part of also this info. When you are logging in for that, you are entering a Finnish interface. And then when you are continuing to fill up your application, you are working in a either Finnish or Swedish environment when you are dealing with your own matters. And I only can apologize for inconvenience this is causing, because I can imagine the problems that this probably will cause. But having said that, I can also say that we are currently on a process of getting a new application system introduced. And in the new system, the interface will be totally in 3 languages, including also English. But if you have any problems with the language in the application platform, please contact our customer service, and they are very keen on helping you also to cope with the language problems that you might have in Finnish or in Swedish. This screenshot is also of importance in that sense that in the front page of the website, we always have the current open calls. So this screenshot was taken some 2 weeks ago when we still had open calls for institutions, but at the moment you can hear in this interface only the project grant call, because that is the only one that is open at this point. And to make sure, taike.fi is the address for the website that you should be logging into. Some words concerning decision making when your application is in our system. In all the different calls that we have, there's always in the call, there's a list of criterias that you should consider when making the application, and those criterias are the basis of the decisions that we are making. Decisions are made in the councils, as said, and always the applications are first examined individually by the members of the council. And then after that, applications are being compared against each others, and that is made in the meetings of the councils. So there is there starts the phase of comparing applications against each others. And in the last phase of handling the applications, there's something we call the overall assessment of the applications, which means that we have some criteria, let's say, for example, gender equality or regional equality or language equality, and those will be taken specially into account in the overall assessment, that the overall decision is valid also in those kinds of terms of interest. Decisions are always made in relation to the amount that has been allocated, which means that the success ratio, the percentage of positive decisions, differs within different calls. And here, when we are now having a closer look for the project grants, the overall ratio of success in these applications is somewhere a bit less than 20% of success ratio. So every fifth application or a bit less is getting a positive decision, which means that these are rather heavily competed funding, and it has become ever a bit more highly competed since we have a growing number of applications in our systems in all the rounds. And please be aware that there is no automatic right for anybody for Taike's grants. So these are always based on consideration done in the councils. So this is different from, let's say, things like in the social security system, where you have automatic right for certain kinds of benefits. That's not the case when it comes for the issue of grants. Even though you would be qualified in all the qualifications that we have, that's still under consideration even after that. The consideration and the decision making is made in the boards. There is a special advisor from our staff who is responsibility of the work done in the boards. Please note that you can be awarded smaller sum of money that you have applied for, but you cannot be awarded higher sum of money that you have applied for. And here again, the last point is dealing with the overall assessment, so regional distribution, etc., is taken into consideration in the final phase of the evaluation. Decisions on the project grants will be made by March 25th next year. We are going to have a shift in our system in starting next year, since the councils are being nominated anew for the period starting from the 1st of January 2025. And the new councils are the ones that are being considering these applications that you are now going to send us. And that also means that the handling of the application can only start when the new councils are in operation. There will be differences within art forms. Some decisions are coming sooner, but the larger the number of applications in a certain field of art is, the closer it goes to the deadline of the decisions that we are promising in our website. Some figures as for applications and awards, that awarded numbers that we have used. So the second line here, project grants for art forms. Last year we received altogether roughly 4,200 applications, and the number of awarded positive decisions was altogether 646. And you can see here differences within forms of grants that differs as for the success ratio. In the field of artist grants, roughly 8% of applicants are getting positive decision in an individual round of applications. In regional project grants and regional working grants, the amounts for applications differ a lot within regions. Uusimaa region has substantially higher numbers of applications than other regions in Finland, and the smallest ones have roughly 100 applications to be considered in application round. So even though this ratio looks rather tight, there are major differences within various regions. If you get a positive decision, you should read carefully the decision letter and all the attachments that are following, because there are information concerning the rules within which you should use the funding that you receive. And please pay attention to those, because if you are not following the rules, if you are making, let's say, wrong kind of decisions that are against the rules, that might cause troubles for you later on. If you get a negative decision, you are able to make a appeal for the decision that will be then reconsidered in our system, and the same council that has made the original decision will verify the decision that it has made if you appeal that. After a positive decision, if you are working as a working group, you can change the members within a group. But as said some 10 minutes ago, you are supposed to contact us before making those kinds of arrangements in order to make it properly. And it often happens that there will be changes for the project plan after the decision has been made. If you're making substantial changes for the project plan, you should again contact us in order to verify whether that is possible according to the original decision made by the council. And finally, again, please pay attention that you are making the report of the grant that you have received in due time, because that is where the kind of the handling of your issue is ending. And we are very, very interested and keen on getting information of how things actually went with the funding that you have received. And the deadline for the report is mentioned in the letter of acceptance, decision letter that you receive by email. And finally, some tips for applying. As you can imagine and see from the numbers that I showed in the chart, we have a great number of applications in process in these rounds. The biggest number are at this moment, they are within the art fields of music and fine arts, and we estimate that we are going to get almost 1,000 applications from both of those art forms, which means that the councils have a huge amount of applications that they are going through and considering, which means that it is your advantage to be as clear, as concise, and provide as closely the information that you are requested in your application to make it easier for the council to get an idea that what is your project about. Reply carefully for all the questions that are in the application form, because that is also what the council members are following when they are examining your application. Pay attention that you are providing a clear project plan and a precise budget for your project. And for the clarity of the project plan, you should always take into consideration that probably the council members don't know you beforehand, which means that you should pay attention to providing enough background information as your artistic practices and what kind of things have you been working with and what is the intention of your project. They are very keen on learning more about you and they are interested in learning more about you, but the precisity of the information is of high value. Remember to include mandatory attachments, and apart from the mandatory ones, meaning the curriculum vitae, you can also attach always two other files. And there are separate instructions when you are working within the field of visual arts, where we are informing more precisely what kind of attachments we are expecting from you, and you can find that information from the call. And it's always a benefit for you to familiarize with the previous decisions in order to get a grasp of what kind of projects have we been funding previously and what is the scale of positive decisions in terms of euros that we are dealing with. And an average, roughly an average amount of money that we are awarding as a project grant is roughly somewhere between 5,000 and 6,000 euros. There are exemptions, but that is roughly the average. And second to last slide that I'm showing you, please be on time. And I might suggest that you should be moving ahead before the deadline date. Our customer service is rather tightly packed on the last date of the call, and in case you have any need for any closer information, it might be difficult to get in hold of anybody working in the customer service, even though we have staff working there as hard as they can, but there will be so much crowd then on the move. And applications must be received by the end of application period. 4 p.m. on 28th of November will be the last deadline for sending us the application. And please be in time in case you need some closer information as for the using the platform of the online services or any questions that you might have otherwise for any issues concerning making the application. And finally, the contact information. Asiakaspalvelu@taike.fi means customer service. The address is only on Finnish at the moment. You can see the telephone number there as well. Contacts can be found in our website. And a last remark, we have a newsletter that gives you also information of any ongoing issues that we have at the moment, and you can subscribe to Taike's newsletter using our website. So